All right, here we go. We're going to keep things moving here in the last week of school. We're looking at factoring review today. We've got two or four terms. So basically the non-trinomials are what we're looking to factor here. So the first thing we're going to look is for a GCF. So rule number one on any factoring question, always look for a GCF first. In this case, 35 does not go into 50, so you can always check that smaller one. Then check the factors of 35. You got 5 and 7 are the only other factors, so 7 doesn't work, but 5 does work. So we can factor out a 5 for GCF, and then we've also got whatever the lowest exponent is, that's what they will have in common. So x to the third would be the most variables we could take out or have in common. So we factor out the 5x to the third. Now we're going to divide this back into both of them. Some of you may have learned just to write it in the middle. A lot of times I've written it underneath both. 5x to the third here and 5x to the third there. Just so you can see what cancels out a little better. 5 into 50 is a 10. 4 minus the 3, we get x to the first. And then we're going to divide over here. So this is why I write it twice, just so you can see what cancels. 5 into 35 is a positive 7. The x to the thirds cancel out. And there is my answer. Okay, so there's a factor by GCF question with two terms. All right, we've only got 3 examples here from the notes today. We'll keep moving. As always, you can always pause if I'm moving too fast. The second one here is actually the lengthiest one. This is where we have 4 terms. So we got 14x squared minus 7x minus 2x plus 1. All right, so when we have 4 terms, we can still look for a GCF. Now, there's no GCF right here. However, when we have 4 terms, we're going to group them 2 and 2. Okay? So we're going to take these 2, group them together, those 2, group them together. Now, depending on which teacher you had, there's a bunch of different ways you can write this. Some students will put a dotted line down the middle. Some will put parentheses. Make sure you keep this negative with this group. Okay? Because really what we're doing is plus a negative. You don't have to write the plus necessarily, but just understand that is what's happening. So we're going to look at this side first. So 14 and 7. 7 goes into 14, so we've got a 7 in common. And then we also have, we can only go to the lowest exponent, so x to the first would be the GCF. So 7x, we're going to divide 7x back into both of those. Like I said earlier, you could write it that way, or if it helps you to write it underneath both, just to see that, go ahead. 7 into 14 is 2. 2 minus this is really a 1 there, we get x. And then the x's just cancel out. Negative 7 over 7 is minus 1. So there we go. That is the front side, the left side. Now we need to go over here. Okay, now we're going to factor a GCF, and we want these 2 to match up. And so the issue, we've got 2x and 1, but we got the signs off. So anytime you have where you're trying to factor and there's no common factor other than 1, you can always factor out a 1. Well, when we factor out a 1 here, we need to change the signs, and so in order to do that, we want to factor out a negative 1, right? So again, you can divide that one into there, so we'll put an extra one there. So negative negative is a positive 2x. 1 over negative 1 is minus 1. So now we've got the like terms that we want. We've got this here. And so our final answer here ends up the 7x and the minus 1 goes there. And then the like terms, the 2x minus 1 goes last. So that is my answer. Now hopefully, I'm going pretty quick there. There's a couple things that we went over. We took a lot of time to go over when we talked about this last, and that we would take in class. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out, email, and send a Canvas message so I can help you out. All right, so that's number 2. Key thing there is that we get these like terms so that we can combine the front into that. All right, last one. The last one is actually the fastest one, the difference of squares. Okay, and difference of squares is where, so we had 2 and we've had 4. Now this one is back to 2 terms again. So when you have 2 terms, always look for a GCF first. But then if there is no GCF, like this one, 109. 9 is the lower one. 9 doesn't go into 100. The only factors of 9 are 3 and 3. Well, technically just 3. But 3 doesn't go into 100 either. So we're not quite stuck. The issue here is that you have to recognize the perfect squares. So if you don't recognize it as perfect squares, use your calculator and see what happens. Just type in the square root of 100 or the square root of 9. It might be, perfect squares. you're not going to have anything ridiculous on the homework, but you might have something, the square root of 121 or 196, something under 300 you might see. But you can just use your calculator. All right, so 100 is a perfect square, so we're going to break that up into 10 and 10. Okay, square root of x squared is x. The square root of 9 is 3 and 3. So we get all that set up. Now it's important though, because sometimes students will put the same signs here. Basically what happens is we end up with a plus and a minus. Now if you put the minus here and the plus here, totally fine. The whole reason that this works as our answer is because you've got 10x times 10x is 100x squared. This one is minus 9, 3 times negative 3. But the issue, what happens, why is there nothing in the middle? Well, because this is 30x, this would be minus 30x, and that's why that happens. Because if you had 30x minus 30x, those just cancel out, and then that's why there's nothing in the middle, and we end up with minus 9. And so why it's not a trinomial. So anyhow, just to show you another quick one of that, I'll go ahead and put a number 4 up here, maybe a little bit shorter. But just, the whole process, if we have anything squared, whatever variable it is, but x squared minus 16, just to refresh your memory, if we have this, it's going to be x and x. We got plus and minus, or minus and plus. As long as you have one of each, you're good. Square root of 16 is 4. Okay? So there's another one just to wrap things up. All right. So if you have questions, reach out via Canvas. You guys have done a great job. We're almost done here, and keep up the good work. So talk to you soon. Let me know if you have any questions.